All right, let's dive into the super competitive world of academic publishing. Getting your work seen is, well, it's everything. Today, we're breaking down a guide that looks at a pretty interesting and maybe controversial tool some researchers are using to get an edge: professional journal writing services. So, let's get right into it.
So this is really the big question, isn't it? It's the one every single researcher faces. You've done the grueling work, you've got the data, you spent months, maybe years on this thing. But turning all of that into a paper that gets accepted by a top-tier journal, that's a whole different battle. So what is that final hurdle, really?
The best way to think about this whole process is kind of like a quest. Seriously, it's this long journey, it's full of challenges, but for the people who actually succeed, the rewards are massive. So let's map out this journey. And we'll start with the ultimate destination.
So what is that destination? For a whole lot of researchers, the treasure at the end of the rainbow is getting published in what's called a Scopus indexed journal. Scopus is just one of the biggest and most trusted academic databases out there. You can think of it like a seal of approval, a stamp of credibility that universities and the people with the money, the funding bodies, use as a benchmark for what's quality research.
And believe me, that benchmark is a huge deal. Publishing at one of these journals isn't just about getting your ideas out there. It's a direct boost to your career. It enhances your academic reputation, it makes it way easier to collaborate with other top researchers, and yeah, it can absolutely land you a better job down the line. The stakes are really, really high.
But, every quest has its dragons, its gatekeepers. And in this world, it's just not enough to have a brilliant idea. You have to present it perfectly. That means navigating this maze of super strict formatting rules, using flawless academic language, and structuring your entire argument to convince some very skeptical reviewers. Honestly, this is where the real struggle often begins.
So when you're staring up at a mountain that huge, it's only natural to look around for a guide, right? And this brings us to the core idea in the material we're looking at today, the role of professional writing services.
I think this breakdown really gets to the heart of the argument. It proposes this clear division of labor. Your focus, as the researcher, is on what you do best: the new ideas, the advanced research, answering the big questions. Their focus is on all that meticulous, time-consuming presentation stuff: the strict formatting, the perfect grammar, the journal rules, the manuscript organization. It basically separates the genius of your research from the packaging.
So what does a guide like this actually do? Well, it's a lot more than just proofreading. It's about making sure your manuscript ticks every single box the journal requires. But maybe more importantly, it's about strategically highlighting your most important findings so the reviewers can't possibly miss them. The goal isn't just to squeak past the gatekeepers. It's to build a case that's so convincing they have to say yes.
Okay, let's pause. Because this is the exact moment where anyone in academia would and should raise a hand and ask about honesty, about integrity. And this guide, it dives right into that thorny ethical question.
This is the question, right?
If you're a researcher, your entire reputation is built on the originality and integrity of your work. So where is the line? When does getting help with presentation cross over into academic dishonesty?
And this quote from the source material really sums up the whole argument perfectly. It draws a very clear line in the sand. The idea is that these services are there to support and showcase your work, not to create it or take its place. The focus is all on presentation, not invention.
And this ethical framework here makes that distinction crystal clear. So, improving the language, the structure, the formatting of your original work, that's ethical support. Making sure all your sources are cited perfectly and that the paper is totally plagiarism-free, also ethical support. But having them conduct the research for you or creating original ideas or data, that's where you cross the line into unethical conduct. The core principle is super simple. You have to be the sole author of the ideas.
Okay, so let's say a researcher thinks this through and decides, yes, this is an ethical path for me. How do they actually make it work? Well, the guide lays out a really practical roadmap for an effective collaboration, calling it the rules of engagement.
And the whole process really boils down to these 5 steps. It all starts with being completely transparent. You got to share all your data and your notes. But the crucial part, the part that keeps it ethical, is that you have to stay involved. You have to provide feedback on drafts to keep your voice and your ideas front and center. This is not a hand-it-off-and-forget-it deal. It's a deep collaboration, and it even includes final checks like plagiarism reports to make sure everything stays above board.
So, after climbing that mountain, navigating all the challenges, finding a guide, and collaborating the right way, we finally arrive back at the end of our quest.
What's the final outcome, according to this perspective?
The end result is a manuscript that is absolutely polished, professional, and ready to go. The core research is still 100% yours, but now it's packaged in a way that meets the incredibly high standards of top-tier international journals. And that, in theory, significantly boosts its chance of getting accepted.
And all of this leads to a really big final question for us to chew on. This whole guide makes a pretty strong case that amazing ideas can get lost if the execution isn't perfect. It kind of leaves you wondering, in a world with so much competition for academic attention, is mastering the art of presentation now just as critical as the research itself? Something to think about.